Unfortunately,
Good question.
Unfortunately, what?
I said unfortunately, never mind.
Unfortunately, he won't be on the test.
I said unfortunately, he won't give me that, so.
Oh, he won't give you that?
Wait, how many questions is gonna be on the test?
Okay, here we go. We have, okay, here we go. Are we filming?
I'm filming.
Okay.
That's
This
what we're gonna do on the whole
is
video.
Monday, right before the midterm, that will be on Wednesday for the in-class groups. The online groups may take the exam Thursday evening, Friday during the day, or Saturday during the day, Friday and Saturday being in the CAP office. And if something happens, we can work with the schedule. So CAP people, please don't worry. Online people, don't worry. Okay, Wednesday, we have the test in class, and it is over 4 poems, only 4 poems. They include Ezra Pound's In a Station of the Metro. Okay, I wrote that on the board last time, right? I wrote the whole poem on the board
Yep.
for the last video. So you should know it. It's 3 lines if you include the title. In a station of the metro, the apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. What you need to know about that is, I'm going to ask you to memorize that poem. I mean, it's all the 3 lines. Memorize those 3 lines and just write it on the thing. Write it on the test, and know that it is an example of imagism. Know that it is an example of imagism. Imagism. So that it doesn't have context, and you want to know that it doesn't have, it has an asceticism of language. ASCETISM. On this one, I will mark off on spelling because it's very close to aesthetics, which is which deals with art and beauty. But this is ascetics, meaning it is like what people in the desert, the hermits, practice. So there is not much language. That's why it's such a short poem. It's a short poem. It doesn't have many words, the same way that a hermit in the desert wouldn't have much stuff. But with very few words, you create an image that, if you remember from last time and you look at that video, it just creates an immediate emotional response with very few words. Okay?
All right, will you say the poem again?
Yes.
Quick.
The poem is, in a station of the metro, the apparition of these faces in a crowd. I think it's a crowd. Petals starts the second line. Petals on a wet black bough. Okay? That's the whole poem. It is by Ezra Pound, and it is an example of imagism. If you want to, you really should watch the video from last time because I wrote a whole bunch of stuff around it. But you need to memorize that poem and its title and know the author and that it's an example of imagism. Other than that, you would need to know the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, which is by Eliot. When you give the answers for that one, I mean the title, you can just write love song. You can just write love song. Okay? I would say Prufrock, but I really want you to get the fact that it's weird because it's supposed to be a love poem, which is just strange. So you want to write love song as the title, that's an abbreviated title, and the author is Eliot. I can tell you a few lines that you should pay attention to. I'm not going to tell you everything because all you have is 4 poems to get through. The most important line probably is, I have measured, what comes after that?
Out my life without coffee spoons.
I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. Yes, that's it. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. Because we talked about how it's kind of like they're going to a place like Starbucks and all of that, and they pass the guy, the will work for food guy, and what are they gonna do? Spend $5 on a latte instead of helping the homeless guy? Okay. So I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. Another one might be, do I dare disturb the universe? Which would be the whole thing of, is he gonna dare to go in and get everybody riled up about the people in the poor section of town? Yes. Do I dare disturb the universe? What's another, what are two more lines that would likely be on there that just show up over and over again?
In the room, the woman come and goes, talk to them.
Excellent, yes. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. Exactly. Those are the people who are at Starbucks or in the salon, and they're just hanging out, and they think they're so special because they know about Michelangelo. In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo.
That's from the love song too, right?
Yes, all of this is
All
from
of
Love
them,
Song, so, except for the, yeah, we started with Pound, and now we're going back to Love Song. One that, you know, that line about when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, when they have formulated you with a formulated phrase. Remember the bug image that they have, that he has there? When I'm pinned and wriggling on the wall.
Stars, you said what line?
Oh, no,
He
I
was
don't.
painting so bad.
Pardon? When I am pinned and wriggling on the wall. I want to say it's at the top,
58.
Yeah.
top of the page,
Top of second.
top of the
Oh,
second
okay.
page.
2076. 27, sorry.
Top half of the page there. Kind of in the middle of the
It's
long
the
paragraph.
third little paragraph.
There you go.
Can you repeat what you said? I'm sorry.
When I'm pinned and wriggling on the wall. Same way they pin bugs in a 6th grade class. Oh, and of course, let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient blank. Like a patient blank. Let us go then, you and I, while the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient blank. First, let us go then, you and I, while the evening is spread out against the sky like
Beginning
a
of the poem.
patient blank. First 3 lines of the poem.
Etherized.
Etherized upon a table. Yes, let us go then, you and I, while the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized or anesthetized
First 3 sentences.
on the table. The first 3 lines of the poem. Not the Italian lines, but the first 3 lines of the poem. Yes,
So it's a patient etherized.
upon a table, etherized upon a table. Remember, he's like under, they put him under for surgery. And then, of course, those things like some of the icky images, like the sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, and one-night cheap hotels, and the yellow fog. I am no Hamlet. Those are just some other ones you might have to look around for. Yellow fog, one-night cheap hotels, sawdust restaurants, and I am no Hamlet, what it was meant to be. Okay, that's a bunch. Then we also have, let's see, the Second Coming, right? We have Yeats, the Second Coming. Okay. Okay, you need to know what a gyre is, or a gyre. Turning and turning, first line of the Second Coming. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, or gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. It's a short poem, and I would stand up here and recite the whole thing. But it's turning and turning in the winding gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. You need to know what a gyre is. You need to know what a falcon and a falconer are so that you recognize them, and that the falcon's getting farther and farther away. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Anarchy is loosed upon the world. Oh, what rough beast slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? Its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. What rough beast? Its hour come round at last. Now, is this the Antichrist? I might ask you, is it the Antichrist?
No.
No, it's not the Antichrist. Remember, it's the 2,000-year orders, the 2,000-year cycle, so we're going back to the pre-Christian era is what he's suggesting, that Egyptian era.
What was the title of this poem?
The Second Coming, which sounds like a reference to Christ. If you go back and look at your notes and look at that video, it sounds like the Second Coming of Christ, the Apocalypse, but it's not. It's a return to the pre-Christian era. He's very thirsty.
Very.
For a guy, can you want
Do you
to
not have a
see
bowl like in your
runner
bathroom
or something like that?
A spiral. You might draw a picture. I may ask you to draw a picture of a gyre, which is just that spiral.
So if we have, do we need to know the stuff about the Spiritus Mundi? And like be able to explain that, or is that?
No, you won't have to be able to explain Spiritus Mundi because I would get so many unusual answers that I wouldn't ask you to explain Spiritus Mundi. I will ask you, what is it that has the face of a man and a lion's body, or the head of, what is that? The Sphinx. You need to know that it is a Sphinx. Yes. And that it is not a bald cat. As we got with our pictures at first. It's that giant Sphinx that's in Egypt. Might even put a picture of one on the test and say, what is this? And get you to label it and say, what poem mentions a Sphinx? Might do that. I saw that. You took a picture of Henry. He likes being here better than at the vet. Okay, so that kind of, you need to read through the poems and just kind of know some of the images from the poem.
Is Idea of Order at QS going to be on?
I'm sorry, what?
Idea of Order at QS?
No, I won't do Idea of Order at Key West. We will do the very strange poem, The Anecdote of a Jar.
The end.
Yes, and that's Wallace Stevens, yes.
Can you go over the
Yes. Okay, we will do Stevens' Anecdote of a Jar. If I give you a quote on the test that has jar in the wilderness, and you put down something else, I'll be sad. If there's a jar, it's the poem about the jar, and it's by Stevens, okay? So, the jar is on the hill. Know that the jar orders the wilderness. You want to remember that you want to find the lines that say wilderness, wild, that sort of thing. The jar is placed in the middle, and you want to know that the jar makes the wilderness come up and surround that hill, right? You want to know that line, okay? And that's Wallace Stevens.
Is that when we talked about trees?
Yes, that's the one where we talked about trees and what does the tree mean to you, what did the tree mean to somebody else. That the tree, or the natural space, or the unordered space, that does not have meaning until the individual places the meaning there with his or her imagination. That meaning comes from the individual. Yeah. I would say know that it's the person, the human imagination that shapes meaning.
So this test is just going to be like fill in the blank or like?
Yes, except for pound where you've got to write the poem. And it won't be a whole lot of lines, it won't be a whole lot of questions, so they'll count kind of a lot, so I'll try to make them obvious, but you need to know that there are only 4 poems, guys, so you need to know those 4 poems. But you can do that. And it's all fill in the blank essays. Yes.
I had a test to make up and I can do it on Wednesday, but we have our final that day. I can do
Whenever, anytime during the office hours. Except right after this class, because I can't. Yes.
Have you read our, like, set test?
I have not, but that's what I'm going to do. As soon as I take him to the vet, I'm going to grade the second test. So if you want to see those second tests, you can come by the office. And I would say you could come by, I've got a class at 1, so you can come by just before the 1 o'clock class, and I should have them.
Oh, like today?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. And I've been grading papers, but I'm just kind of, I have this huge stack of papers. I'm just starting at the top and working my way down. So I may get 1 or 2 back in here and then somebody else's class and all that. Yeah. My goal is to have everything back to this class and the other 202 that's in class when you come take the final. So I hope